When work at the Smithsonian Institute was slow, Institute head and Hemingway fashion inspiration Samuel Langley would design and build flying machines of ever expanding size and complexity. Ultimately, it would turn into an early 19th century version of the space race. He called his designs aerodromes. The first were unmanned and used automatic stability. Everything stays stable, more or less. It's an uneasy alliance with nature. The Smithsonian procured a houseboat for the project, and in 1896, Langley catapulted his most successful aerodrome yet, Aerodrome Number 5. While sort of circling the Potomac River, it climbed at 3,000 feet before it quite literally ran out of steam. President McKinley became convinced that the aerodrome would make a great observation platform for American forces currently steamrolling the Spanish in Cuba, and for the record, the Philippines. The aerodrome was the high ground. Langley asked Congress for $50,000 to build a bigger aerodrome, one that could carry a man. He got it. That works out to $1.8 million today. Langley also diverted an additional $23,000 from the Smithsonian budget. Today that's $851,000. It's good to be the secretary. The Great Aerodrome had its problems. Moisture from the Potomac saturated the wings and the battery. The first time the crew did manage to fire up the engine, its propellers cracked. The Great Aerodrome really didn't need a pilot. You could say it was simply a greater Aerodrome Number 5. Langley could have started unmanned trials using the weight of an average man as ballast, let's say 140 pounds. The average man then was much skinnier. He would work through the bugs, because there's bound to be bugs, and meanwhile really put some serious thought into keeping the pilot dry, and not to mention safe. Instead, Langley chose Charles Manley. Charles Manley. With a name like Manley, he had to be tough. Like the aerodromes that came before, the Great One had tandem wings, both with that extreme dihedral, designed to dampen the most violent turbulence. Automatic stability. Manley didn't have much to do besides sit below the wings, protected by a flimsy canvas frame, and maybe throw his weight around to climb and steer. Sort of a semi-automatic stability. In late 1903, the Great Aerodrome flew twice. On October 7, it launched from the houseboat and gently plunged into the Potomac. Sort of like a Red Bull Flugtag. Those are fun. So anyway, Manley got drenched. The Great Aerodrome got damaged. Autumn turned to winter, and they repaired the Great Aerodrome. On December 8th, once again it launched, and this time it shot into the sky. Its forward wings collapsed, then it splash landed tail first into the now icy river. Manley worked himself free from all the wires that were supposed to hold it together. When the crew tried to pull the Great Aerodrome from the water, it snapped in two. Congress was not amused. Nevada Representative Gilbert Hitchcock said, "If it is to cost us $73,000 to construct a mud duck that will not fly 50 feet, how much is it going to cost to construct a real flying machine?" Langley maintained that the fault lay not in the aerodrome, but in its catapult. And anyway, it was an experiment. Like all experiments, the concept only needed a bit of tweaking and more funding. The Boston Herald said that Langley should try submarines. Nebraska Representative Gilbert Hitchcock told the Brooklyn Eagle, "You can tell Langley for me that the only thing he ever made fly was government money." The government dumped the aerodrome's remains at the Smithsonian and invited Langley to pour his own cash into it. Samuel Langley died in 1906. That same year, newspapers were reporting that two bicycle shop owning brothers from Ohio had built their own flying machine on their own dime. It cost them $3,000. That would be $105,000 today. The U.S. Patent Office granted them all imaginable rights to winged flight, and now they demonstrated it before God and everybody, so far as they had a rank or a government title. God was exempt from that one. 4 years later, President William Howard Taft awarded Wilbur and Orville Wright the Langley Medal. Kind of an insult, really. To add a little injury, the government paid them only $30,000 for its first airplane. That's barely $1 million today. But they did okay.